Hello, we'll be starting this discussion panel in about 15 minutes for anyone that's seeing this on the Facebook live broadcast. Just bear with us. Dr. Stephen Porges is just finishing up his talk. We have Adam Wilder already joining us.
Hi.
Hi, Adam. We are already broadcasting on Facebook Live, but the session will be starting in about 13 minutes.
Great. I'll go and do my makeup. See you shortly.
Excellent. See you shortly. And for anyone watching on Facebook Live, this is a discussion panel where Mark Walsh will be talking with some of the presenters from the weekend, talking self-care. This is the Embodied Self-Care Weekend, where it's a lead-up event for the Embodiment Conference, which is happening from the 14th to the 25th of October. And I'm going to put some links in the chat for where you can buy recordings for the self-care weekend and for the conference. You can join the Facebook group, take part of the community, join Embodied Circles, which is daily practice in the lead up to the conference, and the link for the conference to be able to tell all of your friends and get them involved. I realise I'm just streaming live on Facebook now. I'm not sure whether anyone's even watching it yet. So this is the discussion panel for the Embodied Self-Care Weekend. A bit difficult to know what to say when you're just speaking into the void. Maybe in case anyone is watching on the Facebook, I'll say about some of the other stuff that we've got coming up later on today. So after this discussion panel, we have Marcella Widrig, the founder of Fierce Embodiment, who's trained extensively with the Grinberg method after getting a hands-on start in therapeutic massage and shiatsu. Continued development with the Grinberg method's stopping movement training, body-mind centering, embodied flow yoga and motion theatre. This combination of somatic bodywork, movement training, breath and expressive arts has given her a rich variety of body-centered tools to guide clients through trauma and emotional challenges. We've then got the author of the Headache Healer's Handbook, Certified Master Somatic Coach and Bodyworker, Jan Mundo, our headache expert. And then the founder of Movement as Metaphor, David Baselli. But this session is going to be a discussion panel led by Mark Walsh, who should be here shortly, and with several presenters are also presenting elsewhere over this weekend. We have someone coming online. Manal, fantastic to see you. Making me no longer just speak to an empty void, talking at my computer as if I'm going completely insane. It's that difficult one. It's like it hasn't started yet, but I feel, but it has started streaming. Should I be talking? Should I just sort of sit here, have a few breaths? Everyone does it in their own way. You're still muted, so we're still not having a conversation. But I can see your facial expressions that you feel my pain. I can understand that.
Oh God.
Marcella, hello, welcome.
Yeah, I was saying you guys are doing an awesome job because Steve is still. I'm pointing that way. I don't know why. In the other room, closing up the session, and it's like I'm glad there's two of you doing that. It's like, oh.
Yes, we definitely need two of us. There's a 10-minute gap in between sessions. Someone needs to be here to start the broadcast so the web team can get it up onto the portal. We have people watching on the embodiment portal. We have people watching on Facebook Live, and we have people watching here in Blue Jeans, both on the app and in the web browser. So we have lots of different groups of people in various places, but all coming together to discuss self-care. And Steve, that was a fantastic interview that you just did on the fly. The interviewer didn't show up, and Steve, excellent improvisation, I must say.
Centering the fuck out of myself there. You, Marcella.
Hey there, Steve.
You've just woken up. What is it, 9 a.m.?
No, I've been up for a while.
You're one of these like early morning people. What is this?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a bit apocalyptic outside my window, so
Oh yeah, the smoke and all that.
yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, welcome, Marcella. Well done, Steve, for handling the little bit of chaos there.
That's just centered the fuck out of myself. It's all okay.
I will cough on.
I don't know if people can see me or hear me.
No,
Yeah,
but
we can see and hear you, Philip. Welcome.
we'll just close the thing, yeah?
Adam, I caught your session, Adam. I was lurking in the background. Good stuff.
Great, thanks, Mark. I hope you weren't too offended by my comments there.
No, it was fun. I don't mind being talked about. I got recognized in the street today. I was walking on the park and someone said, I was just on your embodiment conference. I was like, oh my God, I'm such a rock star. So, I'm used to people talking about me now. So,
Cool.
I'll see you tomorrow at King's Cross, yeah?
Yep.
Cool. How's life, Marcella?
Indoors. That's how life is right now. I mean, it's actually good. It's just that the whole state is, well, the whole West Coast is, there's not really anywhere to escape to. So,
Because of the fires, or?
yeah. And the smoke. I almost had to evacuate and then I didn't, but it's the whole state of California on up to Oregon and is absolutely covered in smoke. So
Wow, that's some very orange pictures. Trump-covered colored skies.
yeah, it's pretty eerie. And there's no escape. It's not like I can just drive to the coast and then find some fresh air. Hey, Daniela, nice to see you.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see you, Marcella. A very long time.
It has been a long time.
Yeah. We're very happy that you're here.
So I guess I'll mute, yeah?
I'm just going to open the window because the cat is standing outside. Finds new possibilities to enter my room.
Daniela, I just opened the window to my cat to come in.
Me too.
Hello. This is Louis, official well-being and self-care advisor of the Embodiment Conference. Hello.
Hey, Louis. Getting some flowers in. What do you think? Brighten this place up a bit?
Yeah, looks good.
There we go. Oh, flowers are nice. I buy myself flowers, and at the supermarket, people always say, oh, who's the lucky lady? I'm like, it's me. So,
You're a beautiful lady, Mark.
flowers. Thank you. My wife's like, show me the chocolate. She doesn't care about flowers. How you doing, Philip?
I'm well. Kind of strange. Everything is so strange, and to top it off, my daughter's been living with us for 5 months because of COVID, and she left for Vancouver, which is a 5-hour flight from Toronto, not exactly next door. So that's, it's all strange and wondrous.
Strange and wondrous.
Yeah.
You pining a little bit, missing her?
Yeah. But, I mean, part of that too is she's doing what she needs to, and she's doing so well, so what could be better? Yeah.
We're on time, Steve. Are you going to do like an official start, or are we just rambling? I'm happy just to chat to these guys, but
Yeah, so I believe that you're hosting this panel. I know Rachel's about to drop in. She's just restarting her computer because she's having some sort of tech issues, but I think we're fine to get going.
am I in charge? Okay, I can be in charge. Ready?
Alright.
5 o'clock.
Can you all hear me?
Hey,
Can you
who's
hear me?
that?
This is Jan.
Hello, Jan.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Mark. You know, my video
thing.
isn't working.
Okay,
Here it
wait,
is.
there you are. There you
I'm
are.
here.
Welcome.
Hi.
Come on in. Come on in. Did we
Yeah.
just lose someone as well? Okay, it's 5 o'clock, so I will begin officially. This is the self-care panel. We will be taking potential questions in the chat, so put a few questions in the chat. Thank you for your patience today as we learn to use BlueJeans. This is sort of our warm-up gig for the conference in October. And, it's going reasonably well. We've had a few glitches, and I think Steve's done wonderful, and Yolanda too, to sort of manage those. So, yeah, we're learning. So thanks for your patience. And what I found with BlueJeans, it just took me a day or two to get used to. And yeah, don't worry, you are muted if you're not on the screen. So the order I can see the panel in would be Manal, Marcella, Jan, Philip, and Adam. Okay, so this isn't some kind of sexist ladies first. This is just the order you're on the screen in. So I'm going to ask questions, and if you could go in that order. So Manal, Marcella, Jan, Philip, and Adam. And I'll ask a couple of questions myself, and I'll do a timer. So sometimes you get a sort of verbose person who will go on for hours and hours and hours. Just to stop that, there'll be a beepy thing usually after a minute, and that keeps it moving fairly fast and furious. So welcome, Jenny. So the minute will start now. The first question is just, what is self-care? Let's start with a sort of basic one, and everyone can give their answer to that. And audience people, please ask questions in the Q&A, not just in the chat, and then I'll gather some of your questions too. So Manal from Saudi Arabia, 1 minute. What is self-care?
Well, it's the capacity to be whatever quality I want to be. So capacity to be patient, capacity to calm, the capacity to be alert and answer questions. That's 1 minute. 30 seconds?
Well, under 30 seconds more if you want them. Talk about anything for 30 seconds. Did it get an hour? It's all good.
Yeah, it's,
okay.
Yeah, we're good?
We're good. Shukran, thank you. And there actually will be Arabic translation of the conference, by the way, if any of you speak Arabic or German or Russian or French, despite my protestations, or Mandarin Chinese or Brazilian Portuguese, and one other one that I forgot. Okay, Marcella, what is self-care?
It is putting attention where attention is needed in order to become free of whatever causes you suffering. So whether that be something of heartache or fear, something old that you haven't yet dealt with that is demanding your attention. That's just a very non-verbose, simple description.
Thank you, Marcella. Jan, what's your take on this?
It's tuning into, I'll just talk about myself, my body, and body, mind, emotion, spirit, and stopping, taking time to take a breath and tuning into where I feel tight or have pain, and bringing my mind and my touch to that area, and taking a breath.
Canada, Philip Shepherd.
I experience self-care as honoring the whole of the self. And I think it's useful in understanding self-care to look at what's its opposite. So to me, the opposite of self-care is living according to an idea of who you should be. And I think that is profoundly damaging. That's it.
Deep as ever. Thank you, Philip. Adam, in London.
It's about being in touch with your needs and being able to meet your own needs. And it's the step on the way to this self-actualization. That's it.
Thank you, Adam. So, Jenny, I don't think we've met. It's a pleasure to meet you. Welcome.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you.
Where are you in the world?
I'm in Seattle, Washington.
Seattle, okay. So welcome to the party. Try not to, take over the place and turn it into a anarchist stronghold or anything like that, Jenny. So you're super welcome. What is self-care to you?
I think for me, I tend to look at it through the lens of the nervous system. So how am I allowing myself to settle, to come into a state of rest and digest? And that can be through many different things. And so I don't think it's necessarily about the symptom or what self-care looks like, but what is happening in the body. And how can that happen through breathing, through movement, through sometimes getting work done can let our body settle. So however that happens.
Okay, Divya, these flowers are for you, obviously, just so you know. You're super welcome, yoga teacher from London. The question is, what is self-care to you? 1 minute or less. Off you go. Rachel, you're up next. You're muted, Divya. You need to unmute yourself. Top right.
My self-care right now is figuring what the bleep is going on with this new platform. And
swear here. It's okay. You can swear. It's no problem.
So okay, that's my self-care is remembering to unmute and getting acquainted with this platform. So I find my self-care is just weaved into my day. It's just kind of it tries to be a part of whatever I'm doing or not doing, actually. So, whether it's just calming myself down or grounding or doing something more proactive. And this has taken practice and time. I think I would have always separated self-care as a category, maybe. or that's certainly how it's presented to us. This is when you do
minute, I'm going to be fair.
Oh,
thank
sorry.
you.
I missed that bit. Anyway, bye. Nice to see everybody.
Rachel Blackman, what is self-care?
Hello. Self-care for me is an ongoing process that I'm learning about as I go, and I can't claim to have it nailed down, but I find the more attention I can offer it, the better I'm supported in my relationships and in my work and in my professional life and in my blah, 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 like the list goes on. The more I can allow it or bring it in, prioritize it, then there's balance. And it's maybe not the same for everyone, but that's certainly the case for me.
Thank you, Rachel. I feel like I've learned a lot from you personally working alongside you at EFC about self-care. So pleasure to have you here. In the chat, if you want to put your version, feel free. I like to have these things as a conversation, not just, the important people speaking down to the peasants in the chat. So do discuss things, ask questions and the rest of it. Out of 10 speakers, how would you rate yourself on your self-care? So would you say your personal self-care was like maximally good? Was it a 0? Obviously, if it's below 5, you should judge yourself and hate yourself for that. No, don't do that. Yeah, well, that's always a good question, right? It's very arbitrary. How would you know? How would you know if it was a 10? How would you know if it was a 0? Okay, how would you know? This is more for reflection for everyone, yeah? So I don't think any of us hold ourselves up as perfect paradigms, do. What's the word? Who knows English? Philip, you're articulate. What's not a paradigm? Perfect, the perfect thing. We're not that.
I think maybe a model, perfect model.
That's a good word. Keep it simple. Okay. So top self-care tip. If someone came to you and said, you know what, all this talk and philosophy is great, but just give me something I can use. Give me a little practice, a little tip. What would be your go-to? So it's Manal, Marcella, Jan, Philip, Adam, Jenny, Divya, Rachel. So Manal, top tip.
Top tip, do whatever you want to be doing right now. And it doesn't matter if it was from a teacher, what the experts say that is self-care is what you need right now to help you maybe be a little bit nicer to yourself, to people around your house, and be a bit more pleasant. So it is whatever you want, what you need right now. Whether it's, meditating on your bed, just laying down on the floor, or maybe just going and having an ice cream. It's all self-care.
Nice. Being pleasant, that sounds almost British. In England, we have self-politeness other than self-love. Self-love is a bit American. We have self-politeness here. Okay? Can't manage self-love, go for self-politeness. Okay, Marcella, top tip.
My top tip is breath, really. Feet on the ground, feel where you are, and take a breath, and then take another breath, and slow everything down. So whether it's internal speed or the external chaos that's happening, there is a different rhythm you can find if you feel your feet on the ground and you breathe.
Breath. Maybe let's all take a breath together. Jan, you're up.
Feel my feet on the floor, my feet on the ground. Soften my knees and breathe lower, not necessarily deeper. If you breathe lower, then you can breathe deeper. And just use gravity. Let gravity hold me versus pulling myself up and staying in my head so much.
Wonderful. Maybe let's all feel our feet on the ground. Sometimes I ask myself, if I was standing in sand, what kind of imprint would I be making? Philip.
Yeah, I'm with Jan on this. I find in our culture, our energy separates from the earth. We hold our energy up high in the body, and to feel that energy and allow it to drop down through the body so that you have the sense of your energy being at rest on the earth. And to me, you can't be present unless you're at rest on the earth. You can't rest in the present without that. And that's the beginning for me of self-care. That's a return to your wholeness as it is in this moment. And to fully arrive in the present and to find yourself at rest in it is to avail yourself of the deeper harmony of the world around you.
I'm in love with your voice every time you speak. I don't even listen to the words. I just fall in.
It's okay. You just make the words up as I go along anyway.
It's nice. It's lovely. Adam.
I think I would say to slow down. I think a lot of self-care is about actually being in touch with what we need and desire and feel, and so much we construct our lives to avoid feeling things, to go fast, to do what we think we should be doing. So I'd say slow down, take a few breaths, get your feet, maybe even get your feet in the earth. If it's not winter, if it's okay, take your shoes and socks off, stand outside in the earth. And I'd also recommend a practice from Betty Martin called Waking Up the Hands, which is a mindfulness kind of exercise where you basically touch your hand very slowly and just notice the information coming in. And that helps to develop this sense of awareness. And when we cultivate that, we can get really good at knowing what we need or want. And I think that's how to do it, I think.
Jenny.
I think for me, my top tip is freedom and silliness. I feel like I learn the most about self-care from my boxer dog, who is nuts and just is her body and has so much fun in it. And I think sometimes we just take ourselves too seriously. And so I think it can be really caring just to remember to be silly and have fun in a body, because it's really fun to have a body.
Thank you, Jenny. Divya.
Oh, I love all your tips. So all that you've said, and then I'll try and add something. So I find remembering my internal ally, this comes to my mind. So, whether I need physical, mental, emotional, whatever. Almost before I get to that point, I've got to be on my side. And there's lots of things that I can then do if I'm not finding my internal ally, but it's just that awful American phrase comes to my mind. Sorry if you're American. I've got this kind of thing. But, just finding that part of you that is on your side, and then that voice will actually kind of hold then either whatever's going on or whatever you need to do or not do. Does that make sense? Just, who's there for you inside, and I just remember that.
You, Rachel.
Yeah, I love everybody's tips. I was going to say let yourself be held by the ground, that invitation that's coming from lots of different perspectives now. So I thought, what else can I add? And the thing that came in was Bruce Furtman, Alexander teacher, saying, imagine your hands were the kindest servant, and how you touch yourself is even brush your teeth, how you feed yourself, as if you were doing it, as if your hands had the gift of the kindest servant or the kindest, most tender lover. I think that's really beautiful, really exquisite. So I'll add that little spice to the mix.
Thank you, Rachel. Of course, audience, feel free to put your own in the chat. Two I said earlier. One was to recognize the things you're already doing for yourself as self-care, like brushing your hair or brushing your teeth or washing. You know, if we were to do these for someone else, we would regard that as very kind. If you were to look after an elderly relative that way, for example, you know, so recognizing that. And another one, the frame I like, is to treat myself as if I was in charge of a friend's life, right? Like, how would I eat if I was choosing food for my friend? Or, you know, what would I recommend? Would I recommend my friend stay up till midnight on YouTube, or to, you know, go to bed a bit earlier? So a couple of frames, I like that. Okay, so let's go the other side here then. What is a form of self-abuse that people might not recognize as such? So we get one way I think of thinking about self-care is giving up self-abuse. So what is one of the ways people may self-abuse that is, perhaps not obvious? My journey has been seeing some of the things I do around, say, food or money as not obviously self-abuse, and then going, that's what I'm doing. But now, does that make sense as a question?
Yeah. And the first thing that comes to mind is comparison. Like, oh, am I doing it better? And no, yes. Oh, someone said something more intelligent than what I said, and oh my goodness. And you know, just before this, Stephen Porges was on. I was talking about evaluation, and that constant state of evaluating, am I doing better or worse, is not only exhausting, but is complete opposite of self-care.
Wonderful. Never compare yourself to Stephen Porges. He's great.
And the way he talks.
Okay, Marcella, what is a subtle form of self-abuse that you've recognized?
This kind of overcoming fear and pain. This idea that you can overcome it and somehow master it, as opposed to integrate it into your body and then have that transform how you move through life. I think a lot of our suffering is because we try to pretend that we're not feeling the way we feel, that we're not afraid, that things don't hurt our heart. And there's a lot of effort that goes into that. And then that leads to further abusive behavior, you know, addictions and self-medication and things that we can think are really fun and kind of freeing, but that actually distance you further from yourself.
Wonderful answer. Thank you. Jan.
So I think everybody's going to have their own take because everybody is a person. Everybody's different. I'm with Manal. I totally get that comparison thing. It's a really subtle thing, and I would say for me beyond that is negative self-talk. You know, just realizing how often I run that. Not good enough, and really have to it's a choice. And so I have to snap myself out of it and just come back away from that and positively affirm. So.
Thank you, Jan. I have a very low bar for my self-talk standard. I consider if someone were to come up to me in a pub and say the thing I'm saying to myself, would I punch them out? If so, I don't say it to myself. That's my low bar for not self-abusing. Philip.
Yeah, I wish I'd gone there, Mark, but you beat me to it. For me, the hidden, the unconscious self-abuse shows up as experiencing my aloneness in the world. There's no such thing as being alone. We're affected by everything. Everything affects us. The whole world lives in and through us, and yet we desensitize ourselves to that reality and feel alone. And in our aloneness, that sense of being alone in the world characterizes depression and anxiety and self-consciousness and all those kind of gnarly, coiled energies that contract us within ourselves. And then the question is how to dilate, not into some fantasy of the world, but into
Philip, I'm being fair.
Philip,
I'm sorry. You're as
No, I
ever
can't.
beautiful. Time to move on. Thank you, Philip. Adam.
For me, I think it's about the inability to put yourself first. If you're always putting other people in front of you, if you're always putting other people's needs, and it might not just be the immediate people around you, it might be people at work, people in your family. It can be people across the world as well. If you're spending the whole time anxious and fraught, trying to fix major world problems and fretting about it, and you're not looking after your food and your sleep and your body, I think that's a form of self-abuse. And this is quite tricky to learn when we need to prioritize ourselves and our own needs. And the thing is, when we do that, when we become healthy and whole like that, then we can show up for the people we care about. We can show up in the world. But if we can't learn to put ourselves first, then it makes us a bit more impotent in that regard.
Adam, Jenny.
I think I agree with Jan that we're all probably going to have our own forms of self-abuse. I think for me, it's getting into this mindset that I'm a human doing and not a human being, and that like my identity, my worth, my value is in what I do or what I produce, and just forgetting the innate value of just
Jenny. Divya.
Is the question our own personal one or what we think in general?
As you prefer.
I was just remembering this meditation circle that I ran pre-COVID, obviously, and we were all in a room. So there were 10 of us in a circle, and we had to put down on a piece of paper and then fold it and put it in the middle. A bit like your question, what we were most critical of ourselves about and what we gave us the toughest time about. That was the question. I just had this flashback. And so you wrote it anonymously, and you put the piece of paper in the middle, and they shuffled it around, and then with our permission, these were opened and then just read out. In fact, you picked it out. You didn't know whose you were going to pick out, and you read it. I'm going to try not to cry. I'm not a crier, but this is just quite emotional. So there were 10 of us in this.
I'm really sorry. Can you complete the story?
I need the punchline. Come on. So 9 out of 10 of those slips of paper said inadequate.
Inadequate.
And that was 9 responses.
We're going to move on. I need to hold boundaries. It's self-care.
Okay.
Thank you, darling. Rachel.
So the first thing I wrote down on my notepad when you said lack of self-kindness was not listening. And for me, it comes down to that. So whenever I'm being unkind to myself or there's some level of self-abuse going on, it's because I'm not paying attention to something that's happening inside me or outside me. I'm not listening. And it's interesting that the opposite of that we all touched on about feel your feet on the ground, notice your breathing, come to quiet, it's kind of the opposite of being able to feel yourself. That's what I think subtle self-abuse is for me.
Thank you, everyone. I know it's pretty tough to keep this to a minute as well. It's such a deep topic, so I feel harsh, but also I value being giving airtime to all the people here. Okay, next question. So, what is a surprising or seemingly unspiritual form of self-care? Yeah. So something that because people might think of self-care as like bubble baths or like getting a massage or meditating, but what's like your surprising or kind of like edgy or non-spiritual version? You know, some little thing you go, no, that's part of my self-care, no matter what people think. So Manal, do you have one?
Yeah, body scan, curled up in my bed on my right side, not giving a care about what all meditation teachers or mindfulness teachers say that a body scan should be like.
Doing it in your own posture, in your own way, right? Don't have to sit there in a super spiritual position. Thank you, Manal. Marcella, do you have one?
Yeah, making my morning coffee. It is an absolute ritual, and it starts my day, and I have complete pleasure in it, and I take full pleasure from beginning to end, and I hate when that last drop is done. But then when that last drop is done, then like my day begins. So
I'm with you. I feel you. Roisin from Northern Ireland, I think it's Roisin who's part of our team, has said telling people to fuck off when they're crossing your boundaries. So let's all practice this spiritual mudra here, okay? It's a very good spiritual mudra we can practice. Okay, thank you, Roisin. Jan, you're up.
Okay, so remembering that for as long as I've had a computer, that I have music on it, and then I can stop and turn it on and move, dance, move, just get it loose, and I just get so locked in that I forget that. So it's not actually very radical, but it is when I'm not paying attention to it.
With you. Rage Against the Machine can be self-care too. Okay, Philip.
What comes to my mind, apart from the morning cup of tea, is writing. There is something in writing that allows me to pull the strands together and bring clarity to them in a way nothing else quite does for me.
Thank you, Philip. Adam.
I think the expression of anger can be just the best thing for self-care. I mean, depends where and how, right? But just letting it out instead of bottling it in. Oh yeah, give me some of that any day. I'm supercharged for a month. And if you crank that up and you bring it to like when you're having a conflict with someone where you hold your boundaries and you speak with like wholeness and ferocity and oh yeah, I just love it. It feels so alive.
Love it. For anger, someone said gardening. Did you know they did a study in England? They said, what are your hobbies? And it was gardening, fishing, sex. Sex was third. Okay, so gardening, great self-care activity. Okay, Jenny.
I think this has been particular since COVID, but cookie dough has been very self-caring for me.
What has, sorry? COVID-o?
Cookie dough.
Cookie dough. Got it.
That's been so nice.
So it said COVID dough, like some sort of martial
No, not COVID dough.
Cookie dough. Okay, Ben and Jerry's whatever. Okay, great. Thank you, Jenny. Livia.
I like driving at night with the roof down with my music very loud. I love it, but it's spiritual for me. So I can't say it's not spiritual. It just takes me into places that meditation sometimes does. But if I get in my car and I find the right roads in London where I can just sort of peg it, and put some music on, it's just love it. And when we had tight lockdown in the UK and you weren't supposed to go out, someone had actually written to a national newspaper with a letter to the chief inspector of the Metropolitan Police saying, but are we allowed to take our car out for a drive at night to get away from all the people in the house? Chief Inspector of London Police wrote back saying, absolutely. So there you go. It helps. please.
There we go. Pick me up anytime. If you're planning to spin to Brighton, that sounds good.
Okay.
My wife in this situation, I know what she'd say. She'd say, making everybody leave me alone. Isolation, loneliness, being on your own as a form of self-care. I want to flag that in. Rachel Blackman.
Yeah, I resonate with what your wife said. But also, I was going to say, this is not very politically correct, maybe, or not kind of, certainly not considered very spiritual. But at the end of the day, if both me and my husband have been super busy and stepson's been at school, for us to have an hour together watching a movie or something feels really kind. Especially if we've been in loads of different places doing 100 different things, to come together and be in the one place physically and share a thing. Like, you know, TV can be really kind sometimes. And it might not be very spiritual, but for us it does feel like it represents the end of the day sometimes. Not very profound.
Yeah. When you said it wasn't very PC, I didn't know where you were going. I was getting worried. I was going to get letters in the brain. It could have got my mind went. You don't want to know where my mind went. Anywhere in the chat here. So any other ones people want to say in the chat to add to our non-spiritual self-care?
There's some really nice ones in the chat, actually.
Do you want to read some out, Rachel, if you've seen some?
Yeah, like riding a bicycle. Someone wrote TV, yeah, cookie dough. There's a lot of agreeing with the things that people have said. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Any other questions for the panel? Feel free to put it in the questions ones. Throwing a TV out a window, Rockstar style. How about that? Okay, so what do you think is misunderstood about self-care? Generally misunderstood.
One at a time.
Yeah, I feel like Manal's kind of got the hard end here. She has to go first every time. So Manal, if you want to skip, we can put you on the end, or if you're ready to go, we can go.
No, I know that's fine, because it really resonates as a parent, especially, that it's a form of luxury. It's a form of nice add-on. It's good to have if you have done everything else for everyone else, and if you have some time, it would be nice to do, which is, it's the complete opposite. It's really my foundation now as a parent is self-care.
Great one from Kate in the chat, that it has to cost money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's selfish. And these are some pretty good ones. I also missed out someone saying self-pleasuring as a form of self-care earlier, so 100% behind that. Marcella, what's often misunderstood?
Repeat the question. What's often misunderstood?
About self-care.
Oh, I think that it's indulgent. I think that this idea of self-care being indulgent as this selfish act is completely distorted, because if you take care of yourself, then you come to whatever you're doing more fully and more present and connected. So then you're able to do everything that all these wonderful presenters are saying. You're able to listen, you're able to connect to the greater life around you and be curious. But so I don't look at it as indulgent in any capacity, no matter what the self-care is.
Marcella, Jan.
That self-care has to take a lot of time. So it's both and. So you can set time aside to do self-massage or to breathe, and those are practices, and you can do it wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Because we have to sit anyway, we have to stand anyway. So if we're, for instance, aligned, then it's going to reap, that's self-care. It's going to reap the benefits of us using gravity and doing all the things that we would ordinarily do, but doing them in a way that feeds us.
Thank you, Jan. Philip. By the way, feel free to pass if a question doesn't resonate for any of you.
Yeah, no, it resonates. I think there's a misunderstanding that self-care means self-absorption. that self-care means turning your attention to yourself and not including the world. And I think that, that's sometimes a really necessary step. But the purpose of that isn't to take charge of the self and organize it. The purpose of that is to settle down into your wholeness, that you can once again join the world and feel its nourishment and its support.
Adam.
I love that, Philip. I love what everyone's been saying. Thing on a similar theme, this idea that it has to be separate, that we have to work really hard and stress, and then we have some chill time, can actually integrate it in everything we're doing just by bringing awareness to it. There's an immense pleasure that can come from most things when you just have that embodiment and attention. So it's not, it doesn't have to be separate. That's the misunderstanding.
Thank you. I think the internet just wobbled. That was my computer. And Jenny.
Yeah, similar to what others have said, I think the idea that self-care is an individual activity. Like, I need to remove myself from you to get self-care. But I think so much about caring for ourselves is remembering that we are social beings and that we can do self-care with others and with our connection to spaces and people.
Lovely. So social side, yeah, it could sound very individualistic, couldn't it? Like, you need to look after you and you on your own as an individual consumer in a consumer isolated society, rather than being, part of community and deeply connected. Yeah. Divya.
I love these. I don't want to take anything away from them. I love how, Philip, you expressed self-care leading to wholeness. So it's not a done deal. It's not in a box. As Adam said, it's not separate. As Jenny said, it's not an individualistic thing. I mean, it can be these things, and sometimes they need to be. I need to leave work early and go and do this. But over time, all these things, they accumulate to all the wonderful things that you've shared. And just to sort of add that, holding that self-care connection to, beyond the self. So there's a kind of irony there in how that fits. And there was something else, but I can't remember. You're going to cut me off anyway. So actually, there was somebody with a wonderful name here, Mona Moon, who said something wonderful about self-care is also undoing. So rather than it being, what do I need to do? I really resonate with that Mona Moon, Mona Moon.
Bad. That's a minute.
Yeah,
Right.
but I let it go. All right, thanks.
Yeah. Oh. So the word should creeps in to this idea of self-care a lot. I experience with my own self-talk and with clients. And unlearning is tricky because undoing is tricky because it tends to be away from our habit or away from culture, out of conditioning, So, yeah, sometimes it's complicated and a little bit tricky to see that when that word should creeps in, which is a kind of self-loathing or lack of patience with myself or lack of patience with another, maybe. And it's not self-care. Just that. I'm going to add that.
Thank you, Rachel. I think I have one to add to this, that I see a journey where people go from no self-care to kind of appropriate self-care. And sometimes I see people at the moment almost overshooting it or misunderstanding it. It becomes a kind of narcissism or a kind of, like, because I'm worth it, kind of ego enhancing activity. Or it becomes like, it's self-care, therefore I never have to speak to you again, fuck you. Right? Just an excuse to be an asshole. That's something I'm seeing increasingly, is people using self-care as an excuse for just really unpleasant communication, uncivility. So I'd say this is almost like a nice problem to have, because 5 years ago I didn't see this, and it's like people have learned about self-care and then, they're getting it wrong, but it's in that way. So that's something I'm seeing as a sort of overshoot or a slight misunderstanding. Any cultural stuff here? We might not have time for everyone, but if anyone wants to jump in, any kind of like, we're pretty broad spectrum here. Not as broad as some of our panels, but there's a few countries represented. So subcultures within those countries as well. New York's not California, right? So any kind of cultural pieces here around self-care? Just jump in for this one. We got 5 minutes left before we wrap up.
I'd want to speak to this British thing about the stiff upper lip and always be polite and always do what other people say, and it's just rubbish. It's just terrible. And there's such shame around putting yourself first in any situation, which I think is really unhelpful for our culture. They don't have that problem like in Russia and Israel.
Maybe in Russia. Okay, someone else? Culture, subculture, gender, ethnicity. We're not all on the same.
I'd just like to speak to sort of the elephant in the room, that our culture assiduously instructs us to live in the head and represents the body as the vehicle that moves the head around. And it's something we all face. I assume it's something that we've all explored in coming back to the body and its subtle, graceful intelligence, and so that's an overarching cultural issue we all grapple with.
Yeah, and I want to speak to that also. What Rachel said about should. That I should self-care. I need to put it in the schedule. It's another thing that I have to do. It have to be in a process and all that. That's a big one. And speaking of the cultural, I think as mothers especially, and that's my experience, that self-care is almost, it shouldn't happen, and mother is a self-sacrificing creature, and and all that. I think it's starting to shift a bit, but that is still, it's like a giving. If I'm practicing self-care, that's self-indulgent, like Philip said.
So culturally, I'd like to say, so I work with pain and headaches and migraines, and a lot of people have upper body, shoulder, neck, head tightness and pain. And really, in America, it's the go-to is take a pill, make it go away, as opposed to learning about your body and what you can do to actually relieve your own pain. So I think people are stuck in that, and it's slowly starting to change, but pretty much cultural to make it go away with a pill here.
Yeah, the other thing I would add to that, being on the West Coast, and is that there's this idea of self-care as doing the yoga and going to the Pilates class and being able to kind of talk about being chill and blissful and this and that, and then it's such a superficial layer that I know, Mark, that's always sort of something with respect to Americans, and I would say especially to Californians, that really jars you, and myself included, because I've lived out of the country, so I have a scope that oftentimes I want to grab the ankles of those people and just put them on the ground and say, like, let's just land this here, because it's not about if you did yoga and now you can check it off and there's an idea that you are somehow embodied, and enlightened. And yet the transformation of being really truly more human and more connected to others hasn't happened, because it's still a check mark of something that looks good.
Thank you. We know we could probably speak more about this. We haven't even got into the gender side of things. We are on time, so unfortunately it is time to wrap up, I'm afraid. If you have more to add, though, put it in the Facebook group. All the speakers are welcome to post their events there, different things they have going on there. Any other sort of want to keep the conversation going, the Facebook group for listeners, great place to chat. We have actual real discussions there, and it's pretty civilized for the internet. There's very little sort of trolling or nastiness. It's a pretty nice group. Considering it's 30,000 people, that's great. And we also make decisions about the conference there. So if you want to have a say, or sometimes people say, why don't you have any speakers from Azerbaijan? And we say, cool, suggest one, no problem. So like get involved, get stuck in, help us out. We've got 800 of our 1,000 speakers for the conference, but not all of them yet. So there'll be another chance to apply if you're thinking, how can I be on the screen? Do I have to have a beard as beautiful as Adam's? No, you just have to know something about embodiment. So other things.
Applications close, September 17th. So please, if you know.
How do they apply? How do they apply?
There's a link on Facebook, and I'll pitch it up and type it right here for the form.
As ever, please do, if you want to support us and actually make the conference happen, I need to find £250,000 in the next month. I'm sure that'll be no problem at all. So if you're rich and want to lend me a load of money, or if you want to buy the recordings so that you've got the library of the university course of 1,000 presentations with tutorials and all the rest of it, and of course all the self-care videos, that is yours. You can get that there where it says upgrade. Okay, that would be very cool. Really, if you don't have any money, just tell your friends. That would really help me out. Okay, like put it on Facebook, put the main embodimentconference.org link on Facebook, tag all your friends. They will love you for telling them about it. It's amazing. Like our speakers are like Jesus and Buddha and Stephen Porges. It's just like the best lineup in the world ever. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit special. Thank you for our hosts. But now, always a pleasure. Steve and Yolanda in the background dealing with the tech issues and stuff today. So super appreciated. Anything else from you, Manal, or from our tech hosts in the background before we wrap this up?
I think we are good. I didn't get the memo of the closing comments, but the application form is right there.
Great. Embodiment circles is the other thing we've got going on. If people want to have a little group, for example, Paul Linden has an embodiment circle every week, and different funky ones. Okay, we still have 2 minutes left. So Divya, the final word. You had something to say. We've still got time. Go for it.
Chatting with our friends. Sorry, I was listening to you. So yeah, I was also chatting to some of our friends. You just mentioned the cultural thing, and so I'm from India, and although I don't think it's an Indian thing, I think it's just an underlying thing that there is a way of service feeding into your self-care. I mean, you all know that, that's why you're all here. And that relationship, that two-way flow, and just getting, I think when that balance is well-intentioned, it's a fun, I mean, you can get over so much, you can, or at least hold so much of your own life challenges or pain, not by compensating or, losing yourself in martyrdom, but by the energy that maybe something else, like when you talked about cleaning your father's feet, you're probably getting something back in your own well-being from that. It isn't just that, and then you had this idea, I'll give it to myself. So, and especially, parents, whatever your work, you can reframe this as how that feeds back and forth as a form of self-care. Anyway. Yeah, but I tell you what, Indian women are rubbish at self-care. They're getting better. It's like, why would I want to do that? We still get that. So that's a whole other discussion.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me do that. Yeah.
Okay, so we're ending, I believe, now. Let's finish with a little dolphin blowhole polishing, just for a bit of fun to finish. Okay, so everyone touch top of your head. There's your dolphin. There's your dolphin blowhole. Okay, give it a little rub. Okay, give it a little caress, enjoy your dolphin blowhole, and then just everyone at home, just lean into the screen and just give each other little dolphin kisses from afar, if you're willing to, okay? You don't have to, of course, it's all by choice. Thank you so much, Yolanda. I think we're done here. Anything I missed, Yolanda?
No, we just got Marcella is coming up next. She's going to be doing a talk on transforming pain. So you can find the link for that on the embodiment portal.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all our panelists. As ever, that was fun. I enjoyed that. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Bye-bye,
everybody.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
It was lovely to meet you.
Yes.